All right, let's watch CNN go from excited to upset on election night.
Proud of Kamala Harris. I'm proud of somebody, she had to pick up a baton that had been dropped, and she had 107 days to do something extraordinary, and she has. And I'm also proud of the grassroots people who are out there, won't say die, knocking on doors or anything they can. We know something, and we don't know something else. We know for sure that there is an authoritarian movement in this country. We know it's pulled in some amazing people, good people, union workers, veterans, some people here with us. But it's led by somebody who's an authoritarian, who does not believe in our Constitution. That movement is strong. We know that. It has pulled in the richest man in the history of the world.
We're off to a good start here.
That's a strong movement. Elon Musk. It's pulled in one of the most famous political families, RFK Jr., with his whole movement of conspiracy people. There is a strong authoritarian movement. The question is there a movement for freedom that can stop it? We're going to learn tonight, is there a movement for freedom and decency and dignity that can stop that movement? That's what we're going to learn tonight.
Well, we'll soon get.
I mean, what an unfair way to frame this election, but we'll move on here.
And so I'm going to be looking at the gender gap. As they say on Wall Street, past performance is no guarantee of future results, but it is an indication. So I look back at 2020. The electorate in 2020 was 52% women, 48% men. Among women, Biden was up by 15 points. Among men, Trump was up by 8 points. So I'm going to be looking to see, one, whether the margins change one way or the other, pro-Trump, pro.
Kamala only won women by 7. She lost white women by 6 points.
Biden, and also the overall electorate, 52-48 4 years ago. Is it going to be a different mix of men and women this time?
And also, even if it isn't a different mix in terms of overall numbers, are the women who are voting differently? Registered Republicans, independents, voting differently because this is the first presidential election post-Roe. And that is why so many, I think one of the sort of phrases of the week is nauseously optimistic.
Yeah.
We've probably all heard that from both sides of the aisle. But from the Democrats, they are still banking on women in particular, and some men.
Aaron, female voters are voting at a higher rate than men in all 7 of the battleground states we're watching. Look at this right here. The orange bars are female voters and the green bars are male voters. You can see here in these key states, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, female voters are outpacing male voters across the board.
And our campaign correspondents are at the candidates' headquarters. Let's go now to Abby Phillip, who's at Harris HQ here in Washington, D.C. And Abby, what's the Harris camp's take on the battleground states right now?
Jake, they are looking very carefully as turnout is happening, particularly in the parts within the battleground states where they need to turn out their people. One source familiar with the ongoing voting situation in Philadelphia in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania says that they are happy with the turnout that they have been seeing so far, particularly in the northwest wards of that city, that heavily Democratic city. This source says that some of the polls even requested additional ballot paper to meet the demand of voters. So if you are the Harris campaign today, that is a very good sign. You need that plus in order to win the state, or the Commonwealth, excuse me, of Pennsylvania.
One thing, Jake, that Trump has been privately expressing frustration about is that a winner may not be announced tonight. And his own campaign aides have cautioned that is normal, that is likely expected, and that they don't think they'll know the victor of this race tonight. Obviously, that doesn't mean anything is wrong. It takes time to count the votes. But Trump has been frustrated with that because he says he wants an outcome tonight. Of course, Jake, the question is whether or not...
I'm not sure I believe that Trump thinks, or Trump's aides were telling him they don't think they're going to get a result on election night. I'm not sure about that.
There are influences around him encouraging him to declare victory like he did last time in 2020, falsely.
And I do want to just agree with something Dana Bash said. This answer of America's best days are in the future. I don't see that as a referendum on Kamala Harris. There's one candidate who in her closing message has talked about the future and a brighter future. It's her. Donald Trump has largely looked backward, relitigated past issues and grievances.
Yeah, I think this whole...
How is that true, though? Trump's message is far more clear than Kamala's. No major Democratic person, Kamala included, could even explain what her vision was. They'd go on these shows, do you disagree with Biden? Nothing comes to mind. Other surrogates, by the way, could not even explain why Kamala was different than Biden.
She has been pretty skillful at sort of charting her own course, hitting issues like democracy, abortion, and enough on the economy that she's building a hopeful coalition. And what these don't reflect is people's view of Donald Trump as a person and the character of his leadership, which is where the hopeful nature of her candidacy is playing against his.
Concern for democracy was not very high for a party, the Republican Party, that's supposed to be the party of liberty, the party of patriotism. Something's really happened. I think the Democratic Party, has picked up the banner of a deeper kind of patriotism and a deeper kind of commitment to democracy, and I think that shows in these numbers.
It's interesting, though, the people...
So again, a lot of the analysis was pretty pro-Kamala, and if you'll notice that this panel, there's 5 people on this panel here. 4 of them are anti-Trump, and then this guy on the end gives more of a pro-Trump message. So, I mean, CNN tries to, I think, in theory, be unbalanced. 4 versus 1. I mean, there's no way you could say Anderson Cooper is a Trump supporter. So just that alone shows there's clearly a bias here.
In some of the early projections, we're seeing show a momentum that I think a lot of Americans are feeling, that this Trump era may be coming to an end.
Look, I mean,
no.
He should be scared in Pennsylvania because there is an energy, there is a surge. Look, you talked to me.
No.
A week ago, 2 weeks ago, I'm chewing my fingernails down to my elbows. I'm just worried. The Puerto Rican vote by itself has been lit on fire. Now, people will tell you, different things about it, but what I'm hearing, I talked to a young woman named Camille Rivera. She's with La Brega y Fuerza. It's the only Puerto Rican PAC. They were begging for money. Nobody cared about them, but they had built the only voter file for Puerto Ricans. When this insult comment attacked Puerto Rico, she said it was like wildfire. That people remember, Puerto Ricans culturally, they vote a lot. They vote a lot on the island. And so there is a big tidal wave of Puerto Rican vote coming in Pennsylvania.
Could turn out to be the most expensive joke in history.
On the issue of Pennsylvania.
The crazy thing about this, I thought that joke might matter a little bit, way less than all these networks. It's crazy that the only real thing those jokes did at that rally is just give Democrats hope going into the final week. All right, one more clip here of Kamala optimism, and then CNN, as you'll see, they start to become gradually more negative as we continue.
What I've heard from the campaign tonight is that they are seeing in some rural counties lower than expected votes. Those counties are expected to go for Donald Trump, so they see that as a positive sign. And then on the other hand, when they look at where their voters might be, it's in places like the Raleigh-Durham area where you're going to have a larger proportion of those voters educated, a lot of people moving in.
All these analysts love to bring that up, that more educated people vote Democrat. More educated, being you have a college degree.
Into the state, into those communities. You're going to have more diversity in those communities. And I'm told that the Durham turnout today gave them some optimism and hope as they go into this poll closing deadline in just a couple of minutes. So the campaign has been talking about all these battleground states having a plausible path to victory. They see North Carolina still very much in play, Jake.
All right, Abby, thanks so much.
Of course, as you probably know, they lost every single one of those battlegrounds.
You see there Dubuque County there. We'll see how that one plays out as we go forward. So now let's come over to some of the bigger battlegrounds. Again, if you're in the Harris campaign, especially because we're not done by any means, but if North Carolina and Georgia, Trump's ahead there, then you'd rather be the candidate ahead in the blue wall states. And at the moment, the vice president is 34%, a little more than a third of the vote counted in Wisconsin. Again, you see Trump filling in the rural areas.
See, there's the first sign, realizing maybe things aren't going very well in North Carolina or Georgia.
Right, so this will slide away in just a second. She's only overperforming Biden in the state in a very small number of counties, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so, does that mean she's going to lose North Carolina? No. It just means that she's, we have to wait to see those votes. And then you can flip the question, right? How about Trump? Is Trump overperforming Trump in 2020? In a lot more places at the moment.
There has been so much focus on the Latino vote in Pennsylvania, especially the Puerto Rican population there, since the Madison Square Garden debacle. Even Donald Trump and the people around him, even though they're not saying it publicly, believe that what that comedian did was not helpful. And yet, according to this exit poll, it shows that let's stick with Trump, that Trump is doing way better than he did 4 years ago with that very population, the Latino population overall, not necessarily with Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
It is a bit strange to be that surprised that a massive voting bloc, Hispanic people, Latino people, didn't just completely change their entire vote based on an off-color joke from a comedian. And as I said, CNN throughout the night gets progressively more negative. Here's another example of it.
Yeah, Jake, let me just give you a gut check here about what we are hearing here as we've been sitting here reporting from the Harris headquarters. And I think the operative word right now is silence. There's not a lot being said because the Harris team appears to be searching for bright spots in the map as these results very, very slowly come in.
Searching for bright spots and also very aware of the warning signs throughout the electorate in Virginia, in Iowa, in other places. I am told that Milwaukee and Detroit and Philadelphia, that is what the Harris campaign tonight is holding out hope for, more votes to come in. They have always said the blue wall was the most straightforward path.
They still see their path, but that path is largely going to be through the blue wall, as Jeff and I were just discussing. The key point that Jen O'Malley Dillon is making is that this is a close race. This is the close race that they have been expecting. She says to her staff, we are built for this. Let's finish the night out. We will see you tomorrow. They are not expecting this to be wrapped up tonight.
They are not.
Balls.
Because the margins are so small.
Okay, here's the first example of Jake Tapper being shocked by the CNN map.
It tends to be a very liberal pocket, progressive pocket. You're saying, wow, 65% of the vote, 66 if you round up, that's great.
Oh my God.
73%. And the math, 157,000.
And here's another case of Jake being surprised. This moment went viral all over X on election night.
In places. So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
By 3% or more.
So that is an incredible clip. CNN here now is clinging on to the hope Kamala can win Pennsylvania.
Just add one other thing about what this Georgia projection means. What it means is that she's got to win Pennsylvania. If she doesn't win Pennsylvania, it's over.
Yeah, no, absolutely, especially with the fact that he is leading right now in the 5 battleground states that we have not called. He is leading in all 5 of them: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
But just a little bit later into the night, this happened.
With you, Jake, back to you.
Thank you so much, and we have a major projection. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is a huge, huge achievement for Donald Trump and a huge bucket of electoral votes, 19 of them, for his path back to the presidency. As of right now, with those 19 electoral votes added from Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is within spitting distance of 270 electoral votes.
Okay, now we're at the part of the video where CNN tries to justify what happened. When I was making this video, I was not looking for this, but it just happens. So much of CNN's analysis here is about race and racism.
Gave me a mandate.
I think probably there are a lot of Americans out there watching who are trying to make sense of tonight and trying to figure out why this happened. And I know that there are those who think that this is a manifestation of ugliness among their fellow Americans, that this is a vote for bigotry.
A major reason why they would think that is because they watch networks like CNN. All the division that comes out of these networks, people are correctly fed up with.
And this is a vote for misogyny, or this is a vote for racism, et cetera. And I want to take a moment and just reflect on the fact.
I'd love to hear from Van on this, but let's be honest about this, okay? Let's be absolutely blunt about it. There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country. And anybody who thinks that that did not in any way impact on the outcome of this race is wrong.
Is there a thing, if you want to work at CNN, you got to bring up race and racism once every 15 minutes or something?
But like I do think it's bitter in the mouth. The racial and gender dimension of this. And the only way that you can kind of begin to see it, if you don't see it right away, is can you imagine a woman of color acting like Donald Trump acted, even for one day? The kinds of stuff that he said, the kinds of things that he did, the way that he would insult people. If you're a person of color, you don't feel you have that freedom. You feel like you really are somewhat constrained. You're always running something in the back of your mind like, how am I going to be perceived? And also, if I...
He's making all this up in his head. Like, what does this even mean? A person of color can go on television and be nuts if they want to. Van Jones is doing it right now.
I say this, well, they think that all black people are this way or all women are this way. So there's a license that he had to just be a fool, just to be an obnoxious ass to everyone.
Again, this is actually embarrassing for CNN. This is an embarrassing take. This is not helpful. It's incredibly selfish, and it's actually just incredibly divisive for the country, for the world.
And for people go, well, he can still be president. There's nobody who doesn't have that phenotype that feels that free. And so I do think that
it's also just so incorrect. Donald Trump has probably been criticized perhaps more than anybody because of the internet in history. So it's not like he just has free license. Are you kidding me? Have you paid attention to the news at all in 10 years? He gets criticized every single day, all the time.
Kamala Harris, look, she's not Oprah or Beyonce. She's not like some untouchable black woman in the popular, but she is a respectable woman, and she's somebody who served in all three branches. She served in the courts, she served in the legislature, she served in the executive branch, she served local, state, federal. She should have been qualified enough to be able to not have this sort of an outcome.
Why, though? To use a word CNN loves using, it's democracy. None of the stuff he just said matters when you're just trying to get votes. Kamala did not get enough votes.
There is something to say about the fact that it's very difficult for a woman to lead in this country. Yeah. And everybody's going to be like, oh, no, we've rejected identity. No, you didn't. Okay? you literally did not.
And a woman of color, a black woman.
But let's back up. You have someone who is 78 years old, who has displayed more misogyny and racism, has been gaffe prone, and what he's going to...
I don't think a lot of these political commentators could even go a day or a week if they had to without talking about race and racism with regard to politics. They seem to see the world through these lenses, race, gender, etc.
You have for the next 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, is the benefit of somebody else's economy. Just as he served and just as he had when he got into office in January of 2017, he benefited from Barack Obama's economy. What everybody around the table will tell you, if they're being intellectually honest, is that all economic indicators are trending.
Okay, Barack Obama had like a very flat economy. The mood was terrible. Secular stagnation, essentially zero growth, was a very popular term in economic circles during Barack Obama's presidency.
In the right direction. And although people are, and me and Shermichael talk about this all the time, although people may not be feeling it at their kitchen table, every single economic indicator out there that points to a good economy.
Right, but it seems like rich people are feeling that and working class.
Exactly. Yeah, the stock market's way up, but the top 10% of people own 93%, earners own 93% of the stock market. So for the average person who sees inflation and sees wages generally stagnant, no, not every economic indicator. Yeah, if you're rich, if you're doing very well, sure.
As people aren't. I mean, isn't that kind of the basic message here? Isn't that what we're learning from these voters, right? Like,
I mean, it's
the working class coalition
no
is saying, "Hey, this isn't working for me."
That has nothing to do with the fact that the economic indicators are what they are. But
what an out of touch thing to say.
I mean, those indicators seem to show that the wealthiest are doing well.
Okay, we've reached the end of the video, but does that final clip not show a problem at CNN and in the Democratic Party in general? All these takes on race basically go unchallenged in the Democratic Party, or at least on a public panel like this at CNN. The hosts there push back on an economic issue, but all the race issues basically on television go unchallenged. I do wonder if moving forward the Democratic Party is just stuck with woke. I mean, maybe some of the race takes are reasonable, but how can you tell when none of them essentially go challenge? So with that said, I'll finish the video here, but thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.